in Atlanta, Georgia. SouthArts is actually housed in Atlanta, Georgia, where we are governed by our president and CEO, Susie Serkimer, as well as our board chair, Gretchen McLennan of Memphis, Tennessee. On behalf of our board and our staff, we thank you for joining us at today's webinar. So let's dive in, shall we? Today's agenda, we'll talk about the arts funding ecosystem, share opportunities about SouthArts programs and services. My colleague here, Leah, will then talk about opportunities through the Louisiana Division of the Arts. We'll have time for question and answer and talk about how we move forward with next steps. As Lisa shared, please use the Q&A for your questions. We will answer your questions. And I would invite you to make sure to use the Q&A to engage as we move through our time together. We recognize it's after work, so take care of those things that are at home, or all of whatever you do have going on in life. We're just so glad to have you here. So thank you so much. Let's get started. Use your Q&A for what's coming next. So what's the definition of the arts? We at SouthArts and Leah at the division in Louisiana, we work in arts and culture, but how do you define it? And another question, how many art forms exist across the world? Use that question and answer, use your chat to just engage with us here. Now, it's not a trick question per se, but it is something to open up our conversation about this work that is so important to what we are doing at SouthArts, what you do every day, and the work that Leah does every day. So let's go over to the chat. Did anyone put anything in the chat, Lisa?
Yes, right now we have creating.
Creating, yes. Arts are about creating. What about that question about how many art forms exist across the world?
Okay, let's go over. I see something in the Q&A here. What is the definition of the arts? A human expression.
A human expression. Yeah, anyone else want to chime in?
Ooh, how many art forms? Infinite art forms.
Infinite art forms. Yeah. I love the response about human expression. While intelligent animals create in some way, shape, or form, we don't know whether or not it's intentional. But we do know as humans, our creativity and our innovations, they're very intentional. And in some ways, they're experimental. But the truth is, there is not a singular definition, and no one really knows. But what we also know is that the arts exist across all cultures. And it's wonderful to be in the South in a culture that is so rich in history, so rich in artistic expression from people who've been here for millennia to the people who have just recently arrived as newcomers. Our work is truly about humanity and the human spirit. We recognize that the arts are how we understand our past. The arts are how we reconcile and understand and engage with our now. And they are ways to document for generations to come who, how, and what we as the people before them were. Just thought I'd get us started with just a few questions. So thanks for indulging. Let's dive on in. So I'm going to share a bit more about the arts funding ecosystem. Well, folks, I know that you've heard all about the challenges with funding at the federal level. Well, I am pleased to say that the funding through our National Endowment for the Arts has continued and has been authorized for this coming fiscal year, the federal fiscal year. And that national funding is funding that actually flows through different agencies. And one of those agencies is SouthArts. And SouthArts is part of the regional arts organizations that cover the entire country. And you'll see across the slide the various colors that represent each of the regional arts organizations. SouthArts represents the southern 9 states, and we have Mid-Atlantic, NEFA, Arts Midwest, Creative West, and Mid-America Arts Alliance. The National Endowment for the Arts funds the regional arts organizations based on a particular appropriation centered in population. By law, the National Endowment for the Arts has to allocate its money to the regionals as well as to the state arts agencies. So the next image is after the regional arts organizations is the image for the National Assembly of Arts Agencies, or NASA. It's NASA for the arts, not for space. The National Assembly of Arts Agencies is actually the overarching body that works in tandem with the state arts agencies that typically sit within state government. So the National Endowment for the Arts funds money to both the regional arts organizations and the state arts agencies. The state arts agencies are members of the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies. And this body, as I said, is more of the coalescing advocacy policy body that supports the state arts agencies. State arts agencies, in turn, receive funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. They can receive funding from regional arts organizations and receive funding from their state arts agencies. And then finally, we have our local arts agencies or local arts councils that can receive funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, from SouthArts or any of the other regional arts organizations, from their state arts agencies, and of course, from their local communities. The arts funding ecosystem from a state and federal perspective is going to look very similar to this layout of the National Endowment, regional arts organizations, state arts agencies, and local arts agencies. Of course, you don't see anything about private funding and individual donations, but each of our regional arts organizations, local arts agencies, and even state arts agencies can access private funding or federal private funding or foundation funding, just depending upon how they're situated within state government and what their state government allows. So I'm going to stop here and ask Lisa, are there any questions in the chat about what we've just covered about the arts funding ecosystem?
Not at this time, Joy.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to keep on going. So again, SouthArts is your regional arts organization, and our mission is advancing Southern vitality through the arts. As Vice President of Programs, I'm responsible for a portfolio of roughly 20 programs in service of arts organizations, individual artists, communities, and individuals leaders. That work is all about ensuring funding and access to resources so that the arts are made available for people to participate in any community across the South. So what I'm going to share with you next are the various programs and services we have with deadlines that you'll want to keep in mind, especially given that some of these deadlines are coming up tomorrow. So be ready I'll be sharing more opportunities for you to ask questions about the programs so that you can hopefully get in an application for those deadlines that are coming soon and for some of those deadlines that are a little bit later. So I'm going to dive in now. Our programs and services. So Jazz Road Tours is a program that offers grants to jazz artists to develop tours across communities across the country. So if you are a jazz artist in Louisiana and you are interested in developing a tour, not just across the South, but across the country, Jazz Road Tours may indeed be an opportunity for you. The next opportunity is the Southern Circuit of Independent Films. There are two opportunities. Our screening partners are partners who actually are centered in community, and they are the location where the filmmakers show their films. Because SouthArts curates the films for the screening partners, we do charge a participation fee for screening partners to engage with the Southern Circuit Tour of Independent Films. And what they get for that $5,000 is access to several films that are actually in tour across the region. They also get access to the filmmakers because the filmmakers actually come to the location to engage in community conversations and community activities scheduled at the screening partner location, and also scheduled for the screening partner to create conversations and dialogue around the various topics that the films bring forward. Generally, the topics are rooted in Southern tradition, Southern culture, and they range in content and topic areas from LGBTQIA topics to cooking. They range from historical documentation of people to documentation of place. So Southern Circuit Tour of Independent Films, looking for screening partners that can be colleges, universities, any site that has the ability to screen a film, large screen format, virtually, and in a true theater setting are all applicable venues for this work. For filmmakers, we are open to receiving filmmakers who are producing independent film here in the South. And we do pay both an honoraria and travel expenses. Our next grant category that has a quick deadline just coming up are our cross-sector impact grants. Right now, we still have what's called the letter of intent or letter of interest open. Our focus for cross-sector impact is about supporting programs and projects that are centered in arts, health, and wellness. The applicant would be an arts organization or an artist and one non-arts organization, ultimately to harness the power of collaboration across this notion of the arts and health and arts and wellness. So I'll go to our next slide. So the next round of deadlines coming up are arts and community grants. Our arts and community grants provide up to $10,000 to support an organization, ensemble artist, or an art collective to go into or be brought into an artist into a community. So bringing arts and artists into a community. The applicant can be a non-arts organization. So a library could in fact apply to bring an organization into their community for performance, or again, an artist or ensemble. It can be a literary reading. So it's possible to bring dance into community, or any visual art exhibition into community. So this grant opportunity is open to a wide variety of organizations. And then our Arts in Rural Places grants, they offer up to $3,000 to support similar activities as the Arts and Community grants, but very specifically for rural communities. And this grant is administered through an expedited process. So those are upcoming grants. And then the next category that looks like they are rolling deadlines through April 30th are the Artist Creative Practice Grants with $2,000 to support individual artists in any creative or professional development endeavors. Accessibility is about allowing and helping an arts organization to make their program more accessible to persons with disabilities. This can often include something as simple as a Braille program, having a sign language interpreter, or hearing and listening assisted devices. And so we allow for $1,000 to go towards that type of work, and that grant would need to be matched by another $1,000 to have a program of $2,000. Our professional development grants offer up to $1,000 to support professional development needs of organizations for increasing organizational capacity. And an example of that would be an executive director who goes to a workshop about board governance to help the organization build and do board development. It would not cover costs for an organization, individual in an organization to learn how to use Excel unless they were bringing that skill back to, let's say, their ability to manage budget or using Excel to capture data. So that is an example, some examples of how these funds can be used. So I see some questions coming in. Lisa?
Yes,
Is there a question you think? Yeah, go ahead.
yes, there's a general question about the cross-sector impact grants. And the question is, how many
Yes.
15,000 grants are provided?
Currently, we're looking to award at least 2 grants in each of our 9 states. So that would be 18 total grants for this particular grant category.
Okay, and then another question was, can you apply for multiple grants? And I answered that one in the chat for everyone. Yes, you can apply for multiple grants as long as the eligibility requirements are met.
Thank you. Any other question before we keep moving?
Okay, how many grants are awarded for each program?
That depends completely based on any number of variables. So, and I'll use the first slide we hear, grants of up to $15,000. An artist could actually only apply for $5,000. And in that case, the pool of funding could go much further. So there are a lot of variables to that question. Across various programs, we can award up to 100 grants within a program, or we could award as few as 18.
Thank you, Joy. All right, and I see another question here. Do these require a 501c3? And secondly, if they do require a 501c3 and my organization does not have one, would a fiscal sponsorship help my gallery?
Yeah, so great question. It depends. So Jazz Wrote Tours, those funds can go to an individual artist, and a 501c3 is not necessary. Southern Circuit of Independent Films also does not require one to be a 501c3. You can be a for-profit business and actively engage in this program. Cross-sector impact, because of its source of funding, does require 501c3 status and does not allow for fiscal agency. Let's keep going through. Artist and community grants and arts in rural places also require an organization to be a 501c3, and a fiscal agency is not allowable.
Okay, Joy, we have.
The artist creative practice grants can go to individual artists. Accessibility, you have to be a 501c3, no fiscal agency. Professional development grants, 501c3, no fiscal agency. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. We have one last question for this section. Okay. It says Artist Creative Practice webpage says the grant is up to $3,000. Did it change to $2,000?
If the webpage says $3,000, well, hallelujah. There's a little bit more money in that.
All right. I don't see any more
questions. Tell anybody if you don't.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much for your questions. So another program that SouthArts is very proud to support is the Southern Pride State Fellowships for Visual and Literary Arts. We offer an award in each of our 9 states for these 2 disciplines. And SouthArts is in its ninth year doing this work. Right now, we know who the state fellows are for each of these programs, and perhaps you might know your Louisiana fellow for both the visual and literary arts. What I will say is that we have not yet announced the third prize winner. Those announcements will be made at our award ceremonies, one of which will take place in Kentucky in the fall, and the other will take place at the Chapur Literary Festival, also in the fall, where we will announce the actual winner and the runner-up for these 2 programs. Each of the state fellows receives $5,000. The runner-up receives a $10,000 award, and the fellowship winner receives a $25,000 award. For each of the programs, the Southern Prize for Visual Arts receives a residency at the Hambidge Center in Rayburn Gap, Georgia. And the fellow for literary arts, the Southern Prize winner, receives a residency at the Betsy Hotel Literary Writers Room in Miami, Florida. So we're really proud to be able to have a slate of programs that, as I shared before, supports individual artists, communities, organizations, and individuals as leaders within their communities. So folks, we're actually moving pretty quickly through our slides and through today's presentation. I believe we have a break schedule after the next slide. So let me get through talking about our services, and why don't you let Lisa know in the chat whether or not you want to keep going or if you feel like we need to stop for a brief break. So you can be letting Lisa know that in the chat. All right, so we have some wonderful webinars that we've been able to provide free of charge to the region, and actually we find that our webinars attract attendees from across the country. We have upcoming webinars. The dates have yet to be fully announced, but stay tuned. 3 webinars, with one titled More Than Just Events. Another is around emergency planning and business insurance for artists. And then the next is Grant Writing 101 for artists. Because this is Lisa's These are Lisa's programs, her webinars. Lisa, is there anything exciting you want to share with folks about our webinar series?
Yes, thank you, Joy. One thing I'll share first is that these next these webinars that you see here are actually going to be within the next 3 months. So more than just events, unlocking the power of institutional marketing is that registration is open, and that webinar is August 28th. And then if you check back, emergency planning will be open and grant writing for artists will be open. I'd also like to share that these topics came straight from the field. We asked the question, what would you need from us? And so that we can provide professional development opportunities to arts administrators as well as artists, we've designed a series of topics based on feedback directly from the field. So that's very empowering and encouraging to know that these are topics that you all felt were relevant and you wanted to know more about. We went out and found those industry experts, and so we're bringing that to you. So as always, we'd like to thank our partners at the National Endowment for the Arts, which allows us to provide these webinars free of charge. And the links are always hosted on our website. So links from FY 23, 24, now 25, you can go to our website on the resources section and you can watch them on demand. So whenever you're ready to watch them, they are there and available. If you have questions or even suggestions, feel free to contact me. There's a link that you can go to. We can have a meeting about it, or you can shoot me an email. We are always responsive and want to know what it is you all want to know so we can better serve you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, so I don't know what kind of feedback did we get about the break? Should we keep going or do we stop?
So most of the feedback is fine to keep going. So there were some who said they needed a break, and that's perfectly fine as well. Again, feel free to care for yourselves as needed. We do have a few questions though, Joy. So do you want to save those or you want to answer them before we go to the next topic?
Let's go ahead and get started with those questions.
Okay.
Right, what's next?
So let me go back. I'm sorry, it's in the chat, so I'm trying to find it.
Lisa, I see the questions. Would you like for me to read them?
Well, I see one. One is, would the accessibility grant program allow the money to go to a veterans community event for beverages and supplies?
Go ahead and answer that,
Okay.
Lisa.
So that is my baby. And yes, the money can go to a veterans community event. However, it cannot be used for beverages and supplies. So this accessibility grant is for aid to help organizations present programming that is more ADA compliant. So again, it may be the use of adaptive supplies. It could be headsets to give to docents so that they can help guide patrons as they go through museums. It can be staff training to help your staff better become familiar with ADA requirements, and it could be for website enhancements. So it has to be something that is directly related to the Americans with Disability Act, and you're providing a service. So yes, if there is a component of the event that would provide accessibility, the event qualifies, but the money cannot go towards beverages and supplies. Could it be to remodel the restroom? So this particular grant, because we're using federal funding, it cannot be used for construction. So if you wanted to add signage to, make it clearer and easier where the restroom is, that would be great. If you needed to purchase the door press that will open the restroom door, that would be great. But to remodel the restroom, unfortunately, this grant does not allow for that type of expense. Here we go. Given that SouthArts receives national funding, are you being advised to steer away from projects that embrace DEI?
That's a great question. So as you saw from our funding ecosystem, we are obligated to the presidential executive orders. What I will say is that using terms like DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, access, those kinds of terms that are hot button terms are just that, they're hot button terms, but they don't prevent the kinds of work that is important for people to have access to the arts. And SouthArts is committed to ensuring people have access to the arts and can participate in the arts.
Thank you, Joy. I see another question. We are engaging in a needs assessment, and one item of need is an employment of a director. Since a successful volunteer agency is a challenge, are there grants available for this?
Without knowing some more of the specifics, perhaps that professional development grant can be used to inform some of the organizational capacity needs. And I'm, again, not knowing any of the specifics of your question as it relates to your organization and that type of thing. But we do not have any other grant categories to serve in that way.
All right. So that was the last question for that section. But one thing I will add, you can always go to our website. I put the link in the chat. I'll repost it as well. You can see our open programs as well as those that have closed. And they list the program directors who have those programs in their portfolios. And you can always reach out to us and ask us questions. You can, again, set up meetings if you need to go more in depth. So by no means is this, intended to be, be all end all, but please reach out to us with any questions. We'd be more than happy to help you and find a program that fits your needs.
Thank you so much. So if I'm not mistaken, the next slide gives you some QR codes to learn more about SouthArts. And under that SouthArts QR code, once you get to that webpage, you will find pictures, and actually a picture of me wearing the exact same yellow shirt will be found there, along with the staff that manage our various programs and services. Their emails are also available through that, as is mine. And then there's another QR code for you to sign up for our newsletter and our events, so that you actually know what's happening and that information gets sent to you automatically without you having to continually come to the web page. So those two QR codes, they are there for you. And our website address is www.southarts.org. And you can find all of the information that has been discussed here, plus a whole lot more at our website. So now it's time for that break. And given that each one has made this request for break, what we will do is it's 7:08. Let's come back at 7:10, about 3 minutes, and get started with the next portion of our time together. So see you in a bit.
Having a bit of technology issues, but give me just a second. Here we go. Lisa, are we good? Can you see the slides? Excellent. So thank you guys for being here. I saw plenty of people in the the room that I was familiar with and that I know, and a lot of you that I don't. So to all of you, welcome. Those of you that I have not met yet, I hope to meet you very soon. This portion of the presentation will be informative and help you get to know our state arts agency. Some of you are familiar with how we operate, and some of you, it may be your first interaction with us. And we want to set some expectations on how we can best engage with artists and the creative community within Louisiana. So since 1977, the Louisiana Division of the Arts has been committed to supporting individual artists and cultural organizations statewide through funding, programs, and services designed to strengthen our creative infrastructure. Folks often, I've heard people say, like, I didn't know there was a division of the arts. We are embedded in state government. We are housed within the Office of Cultural Development under the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, and led by Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. We are part of a broader effort to preserve, promote, and grow Louisiana's cultural assets. As you can see, we are part of the Office of Cultural Development, along with the divisions of Archaeology, Historic Preservation, CODAFIL, which is the Council on the Development of French in Louisiana, and the Atchafalaya National Heritage Area. It's important that we understand how our state arts agency is funded and where that funding comes from. This graphic will give you a look at our fiscal 2025 budget, which was around $3 million. And as you can see, we receive funding from 3 places. The funding that we receive directly from the State General Fund is relatively low. We receive an interagency transfer from the Office of Tourism, which allows us to receive the federal funding that we have from the National Endowment for the Arts. A 1-to-1 match is required, and so that interagency transfer from the Office of Tourism allows us to receive those funds. And to put that budget into context a bit, the state's investment in the arts for fiscal year 2025 was about 2.1 million. That's without the NEA, just the state general fund money and the interagency transfer from the Office of Tourism. So state's investment is 2.1. And as you can see from this graphic here, that's well below some of our southern states. Even so, the Division of the Arts continues to operate its programs and administer grants with this funding, relying heavily on partnerships to broaden its reach. Increased advocacy is needed. We could do more if we had more. And so you can find out more information about comparative data on state arts funding at nasa-arts.org. And you can also scan that QR code that's on the slide. And so I mentioned before that I wanted to have this webinar and have future webinars and convenings to learn how to best engage with our artists and with our arts organizations. And with our lean budget, we do provide grants and we connect communities through convenings and technical support and promote participation in the arts. What we do not do is compete with local organizations for funding. We don't present our own artwork. We don't exhibit our own artwork or perform our own artwork, and we don't engage in any lobbying activities. Our role as a state arts agency is to support and empower the field, not to produce the work ourselves. And our work spans 5 key areas: the Cultural Districts Program, Arts Education and Accessibility, Folk Life, Percent for Art, and grants. And each of these play a role in preserving heritage, expanding access, fueling artistic growth, and supporting our state's economy. So in the arts education and accessibility space, we support K through 12 classrooms. We promote and facilitate the Poetry Out Loud National Poetry Competition throughout the state of Louisiana. We provide professional development for teaching artists. And we also provide technical support on accessibility compliance to amplify organizations that serve underrepresented groups. Our cultural districts program is mandated by state law. These are designated areas, rural or urban, that celebrate local heritage and culture. They foster economic development, and some of the areas and some of the buildings in the area may qualify for historic tax credits. This is a program that gets designated annually, and applications typically open every fall. And we add new districts as applicants apply on an annual basis. The Louisiana Folklife Program documents, preserves, and presents traditional arts and culture. This work reflects the state's deep cultural diversity and honors longstanding traditions. For the past couple of years, we have partnered to do this work with the Louisiana Folklore Society and the Bayou Culture Collaborative to produce Passing It On workshops, which pairs culture bearers with members of the general public, preferably those who will carry on the traditions that they are teaching the public. And unfortunately, we have 2 grant programs, but those we don't have any open application periods just yet. But we do have 2 main grant programs. One is the Louisiana Project Grants. Those are administered on our behalf by the regional arts councils. And you can locate your regional arts council if you're not familiar with who they are yet. You can locate them by visiting our website. There will be a slide later where you can find that website. But our regional arts councils administer these grants. The amounts are $2,500 to $7,500 for community arts projects. And eligible applicants include 501c3 organizations, local municipalities, schools, school districts, and colleges and universities. And the second grant program is our general operating support grants. Those are between $5,000 and $15,000, and they're awarded specifically to arts organizations for overhead costs. And those are administered directly through the Division of the Arts. The Percent for Art program, again, another program mandated by state law, dedicates 1% of eligible construction and renovation budgets to public art in or around that space. It prioritizes Louisiana artists and expands access and enhances the state's built environment with original works of art. And all of this work we do with 4 main pillars that are tied to our strategic plan: operational excellence, marketing and communication, community engagement and partnerships, and championing the arts. These are our guiding values and the lens in which we do the work that we do. And if you would like to dig into our strategic plan, you can visit our website or scan the QR code that is there. And this is super exciting. This is one of our annual events that we host during October, which is Arts and Humanities Month, the Louisiana Art Summit, which is produced in collaboration with the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge. We would love for everyone to join us here in Baton Rouge, October 8th through 10th. We're expanding the footprint of the summit. If you've attended before, we have, for the past couple of years, have been hosted at the Carrie Siraj Community Arts Center, which is home of the Arts Council. But we're expanding a bit to include some other venues, the River Center Branch Library and the Manship Theater, as well as the Carrie Siraj Community Arts Center. So we would love for you to join us. It is our biggest opportunity to connect, to learn from each other, and to be inspired by what we have here in Louisiana. Another quick deadline, if you would like to submit a proposal, we are still accepting proposals for the Art Summit through July 31st. So you have just a hot minute if you feel like you want to participate in presenting at the Art Summit. So the QR code here, you can find out more information. And as we build out the sessions and other experiences at the Art Summit, you can find it on that via that link on the QR code. And speaking of QR codes, I have two more for you. The one on the left is our website, louisianaarts.org. Click there to learn more. The one on the right is the best way to keep up with all things Division of the Arts. That will take you to our newsletter sign up page. You can select to follow all of the newsletters or by program, depending on what your area of focus is. And if you would like to connect with me directly, my email is listed and so is my phone number. And I am happy to chat, jump on a Zoom. The best way for us as a state arts agency to connect with people is to connect with people and to learn more about what you do and where you are. And I believe that's that. Lisa, would you like to take it over?
Okay, at this time, I encourage you, if you have any additional questions, please put them in the Q&A pod so that we can address them. Oh, there's some burning questions out there.
We are happy to answer questions and make sure that you leave this call ready to explore these opportunities that are coming up here at SouthArts. Connect with Leah so that you can either attend the conference, perhaps submit a proposal for the conference, and be ready for those grant opportunities as they open in Louisiana.
Okay.
So what do we have?
For those interested in beginning nonprofits that focus on arts and culture, are there resources to provide how to structure the organization and or select board members, etc.?
Yeah, so I will speak very broadly and then take it to Leah. You are in Louisiana, across our SouthArts region. There are nonprofit associations across our state arts states. So any association for nonprofit could be of assistance. As far as what's in Louisiana, I'll turn over to you, Leah, to talk more about those state-specific resources.
So I would definitely recommend seeking some professional development in board development and how to start a 501c3. If possible, I would connect with LANO. I am blanking on that acronym, but I think LANO would be a good organization for you to connect with.
Association of Nonprofit Organizations.
Yes, thank you. Louisiana Association of Nonprofit Organizations. But hearing that feedback also gives us information we need to create responsive topics for webinars. So it's a very relevant topic that I think we could address at the Art Summit or in future webinars.
And I was wrong, it's Louisiana Alliance, not association. And we're going to put that here in the chat here, just a second. for everyone. There you go. Any other questions?
Yes. Next question, do cultural bearers qualify for any of the grants?
Yes. And so a culture bearer could certainly apply for the Artist Creative Practice Grant as an individual artist. An organization related to folk and traditional arts, so that would be a 501c3, could certainly apply for the Arts in Communities grants or the Arts in Rural Places grants. There is no exclusion of people and organizations that focus in traditional cultural bearer or vernacular arts. So the answer is yes.
And for the grants offered by the Division of the Arts, general operating support, a culture bearer would not qualify. Those grants are specifically for arts organizations. However, if a culture bearer were to have a fiscal agent or be connected in some way on a collaborative project with an arts organization or an organization that meets the eligibility requirements for the Louisiana project grants, there's a possibility that they would be able to be funded through the project grants.
All right, thank you both. Is there a database of all public art across the state for the sake of archive and maintenance purposes?
So our Percent for Art program has documented all of its pieces. And there is a downtown public art walking tour that has documented all of the public art in downtown. However, it does need to be updated because luckily we've had some new projects pop up in the last couple of years. So if you were to visit our website and click on Percent for Art, you can see all of the Percent for Art pieces. And remember, those are on state buildings where 1% of the construction budget was used for public art in or around that space. You can see a list of all of those projects there.
Right, and is there a minimum number of years of Louisiana residency required for the artist applying with a local organization for the cross-sector impact grant?
We do not clarify years of residency in that particular grant program.
All right, these were great questions. Okay, another one popped up. Do the Arts in Community or Arts in Rural Places grants have restrictions on the artists involved having to be from within the SouthArts region, or can they be visiting from outside?
The goal is to move artists across the state, across our region. So the idea is that the artist is from outside of Louisiana, but they should not be outside of the 9-state region. So if you wanted to present an artist from Atlanta and Louisiana, that's perfect. If you're wanting to bring Ailey to Louisiana using these funds, you could not. Or someone from New York City or California.
Right, I am double checking here. And unless there's anything else that someone thinks of, we have answered everyone.
Oh, that is amazing. So, the next steps, you have an opportunity now to add to the chat. What do you need? What are your needs? How can Leah's work really focus on advocating for what she's about to hear as you're going to put some things in the chat. At the same time, with SouthArts being able to work in partnership with the work that Leah is doing and on behalf of the arts across this entire region, how might SouthArts be of service to you as individual artists, as leaders of organizations, as representatives of communities? So add those things to the chat. Let's see what we get. And let's have a quick talk. Let's have a quick check-in. Is it more resources? Kind of like this question about the Louisiana nonprofit group. Do you need access to resources? Is it know-how? What is it? What are the barriers that keep you from bringing forward the creativity of yourself as an artist? Or what do you need for your organization to be able to bring forward arts and arts access to the communities where you serve? This is your chance.
Okay, so this looks like a request for resources. It says, I'm a Black masking Indian, artist and priestess. I don't have a 501c3. In this case, are there places to point me to?
Yes. So again, the SouthArts grant for artist creative practice is definitely a place where the work you do in creating the masks, the beadwork, and maintaining that cultural tradition could be funded. So that would be the artist creative practice grants.
And I'll just note that we have a fantastic new folk life director, Maria Zarang, who has been with us about a month and a half. I would love to connect you to her as a resource. I think one of our greatest resources is our staff and the expertise that they have. So I will definitely reach out. I will get your contact information and pass her information along to you if you don't already have it.
And Maria has been lighting the chat up. I'm glad to know who that is because she has been putting some fantastic resources in the chat. So thank you, Maria.
I've seen Maria too. Thanks, Maria.
Okay, so restoration specific funding. We have a lot of art in need of repair and need funding for longevity and repair to maintain our stock, specifically public art, sculptures, and murals.
So currently, SouthArts does not have a grant program focused on these particular areas of public art. Federal funding for public art goes through quite a few hoops and hurdles. And right now, not only do we not have any programs in service to, when we have, there's a lot of work that goes into so, do you have from the state level, especially since the Percent for Art project may in fact have access to restorers and others who maintain? And it looks like Leah dropped off. I do realize there's some thunderstorms here in the southeast, so we may be experiencing some of that technology challenge. Let's hold that question. Lisa, is there another question that's come through?
Yes. Quite a few orgs or independent artists need assistance with how to build a proper creative proposal, as well as how to approach private donors, creative financial partners for funds to execute. I can answer that one because we just had a webinar on, we talked about resume building for artists, but in there, they covered so many topics about proposals and CVs and all of those different things that you need to have in your toolkit to get ready to approach funders. So that recording is on the South Arts website. Again, it's on demand. You can watch it
drop that
whenever you're
link?
ready. Yes, I'll put it back in the chat again. You can watch it as many times as you
Excellent.
need to. There are also slides. If you send me an email, I can also send you the slide deck so that you can have it and keep it and refer to it as needed.
And I'll note to plug into our social media and our newsletter because the Percent for Art program has a technical assistance opportunity that will assist artists in how to create a proper proposal. So stay tuned for that announcement soon.
Leah, does the technical assistance through the Percent for Art program offer any guidance to communities?
Oh no, we lost Joy, and I feel like it was a good question. Do you want to proceed with Q&A, Lisa? Are
Yes,
there any other questions?
we'll give Joy a chance
Okay.
to come back because she'll probably have to use her phone. I know she's having storms in her area.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's see. We make quilts that we give to child protection. We have a group that is open to the public and free. All are, I'm not sure what that word is. Can we apply for visual aids and supplies? So what I will say is going to depend on the grant that you apply for because different grants have different purposes. So it's not a one size fits all. If you're speaking of a South Arts grant, again, you can go to our website at southarts.org and look at the grants that we have available as well as those that have closed to see which one of those grants fits your program needs. And then you can speak directly to the program director and get your questions answered and just get more information.
I'm back. Technology.
Yes, and I'll respond to that question about the quilts. Would not apply would not be eligible for a general operating support grant. And again, our Louisiana project grants are for arts projects. So possibly visual aids and supplies for an arts project, the making of the quilts, not the operation of the venue or the center, if that makes sense. So the answer for a Louisiana project grant is maybe. I would need to know more about the details of the project. And you can certainly reach out to me or our grants director if you have questions and want to dig into that a little deeper.
And thank you, Cecilia. That word was welcome. So it should say all are welcome 30 years. Okay, now this is referencing something that I think, Joy, you were speaking on before we lost connection. I am not aware of any existing funds from our state to maintain our existing art. I think that's a continuation of a conversation that you all had.
Right. I think I was asking
That's
Leah
correct.
if the Percent for Art program could provide technical assistance. And if not, perhaps that is something that could be a future endeavor to think about how the Percent for Art could work with small communities in maintaining, restoring, or other activities to support local public art.
Certainly, I think that's a great topic. I don't believe that their funding can be spent on that, but the technical support and knowing who the vendors are and how the process should go from start to finish, absolutely. That would be great. I also want to point out in the chat, Cecilia, please make note of our new Folklife Director's email address, Maria Zarang. She's put her email address in the chat, and I would love for folks to be able to connect with her.
All right.
So any other topics or resources that you can think of that you'd want to bring forward? It sounds as though being able to reach out to the nonprofit organization for Louisiana can really help with understanding the 501c3 as well as the governance. It also sounds like there's an opportunity to explore how Louisiana Public Art Percent for Art program might provide some technical assistance into community. It also sounds as though, how often can a person receive a grant? So from SouthArts, depending upon the program, it's possible for an organization or an artist to qualify for several programs at once. So we have many opportunities for multiple touch points. Leah?
And we only have 2 grant programs. They run annually. You can receive up to 2. You can qualify for a project grant and a general operating support grant, and you can receive those in the same year. So no more than 2. Actually, there's a caveat to that. You can apply for 2 project grants, but for separate projects. They have to be for separate projects. So I guess the maximum number of grants per year is 3.
Excellent. Well, folks, we're in our final moments, and if there are no questions, then perhaps we're arriving at a stopping point so that you can enjoy dinner, getting ready for your next day, or any of the creative endeavors you have. Just waiting for your time and attention this evening. Well, on behalf of SouthArts, our amazing staff, our committed and dedicated board, and all of the artists and communities across the region, I just say thank you for giving us your time this evening. Yeah.
I echo those sentiments. I want to thank you guys for joining us. I'd like to thank SouthArts for this collaboration. This is how we continue to strengthen our state and participation and support for the arts as by uplifting those that are doing the work. So I thank you. I thank you for offering your feedback, and I look forward to sharing space like this again soon.
And lastly, as a reminder, please use the QR code that was posted, or you can use this link to complete the survey so that we can bring you all more programs like this and answer and provide some of those topics that you all put in the chat. Thank you.
Good night. Goodbye.